Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. We are going to talk about crowdfunding today again. I started this Monday experiment, and last week I spoke about or gave an introduction to crowdfunding. I want to continue on that as I showed that I started with crowdfunding about 6 years ago in 2015, and then I tried lots of websites from crowdfunder.com to seedinvest.com, and then I landed on microventures.com. Again, I want to remind everyone, I am not an investment advisor. I don't claim to be an expert. I just am trying to share my experiments and experience with a lot of the providers, including crowdfunding websites. Someone reached out to me, one of the listener, and mentioned that his investment he made through landingclub.com worked out well. And I said, yeah, that's well and good because it didn't work out for me. So again, YMME, your mileage may vary depending on what you're investing in. And of course, the due diligence you are putting in, and maybe it's at that point the particular investment doesn't work out, right? Maybe because I started in 2015 16, it was still not ready for market. I don't know, again. um, so I'm also not recommending using any of the services or websites I'm using. I'm just sharing my experiments or experience, as I say. My goal is to show people that there are lots of other ways to invest money other than stock market, Wall Street. Of course, but any other way you invest, don't forget the first rule of investment. Don't lose your principal. And I have done that numerous times. Actually, next week we'll talk about syndication, which is what I do as well. And we'll talk about what are some of the pitfalls. And every week I'll try to share experiments I have done with my investment. And as I said, I have not been very successful every time. I have been, today I'll show you that I have been successful, right? But it doesn't work all the time. So let's go. Today I want to share with you folks microventures.com. Again, as I said, it's not I'm not recommending any of these websites, but microventures.com worked for me. So, of course, if I'm sharing what did not work for me, I'm morally obligated to share things which worked for me. As I said, do perform your due diligence thoroughly, figure, figure out your investment criteria, and then jump on it. So, and every week I'm also actually sharing my screen to show where am I. So let's jump into this. Um, I invested in through crowdfunder.com in oil and gas and some other companies. All of those investments went pretty bad, other than I'm still holding stake in equities.com. And I sold my stake in one of the other company, Xperfy, and it worked out pretty well. So far, so that's what it was. Seedinvest.com somehow did not work out for me. I didn't like the interface either, but I think it's a great website, so it may work out for you. And there are lots of other players in this arena right now, which I'm actually trying as well. And I'll talk about those in coming weeks after I see what happens with some of my investments. Yeah, some of the other websites I'm looking are pretty interesting. Actually, crowdfunders, microventures, and seed invest and equityzen.com. Those require pretty high investment amount, right? So when I started, it was always 5 to 10 grand minimum, depending on the business. But whereas this new crop of companies which have sprung into action, they require very minimal investment. So again, it depends on where you are, what's your net worth, and how is your risk tolerance. But you know, I can invest 500 and not worry about losing, but maybe if I lose 5 grand, I'll be worried, right? So some of this new crop of websites allow you to invest as little as 250 bucks or 500 bucks, right? Again, the more money you put, you can lose it all, but also you can make a lot more, right? So, this is where we are taking asymmetric risk, high risk, high reward. Everyone who knows me now by this time know that I focus a lot more. Most of my investments are in cash flowing plus assets which have tax benefits, right? So I would say 50% of my portfolio right now is in real estate because of this. And I call that as my core investment philosophy. Of course, I have 401k, which is managed by Chase and which is invested in stock market. I do very little of stocks now, so because I let the professionals handle that, and I don't want to get into emotional drama. But I also take a lot of asymmetric risk through investing in cryptocurrency, as well as investing in startups. So that is how I'm playing high risk and high reward game. But I don't recommend this to everyone, and make sure you have stable cash flowing assets on one side of your portfolio before you try and do this or follow my advice. So let's jump on to microventures.com. I will start sharing my screen and we can take it from there. So yes, here is microventures.com. This is how it looks like. Again, a lot of these websites are now very similar. Actually, I think they are built using the same engine now. It's like cryptocurrency exchanges. If you look at most of the Chinese exchanges, from Gate.io to Whitebit to Binance.com or Binance.us, they all look exactly same because I think they are built using the same technology. But I want to talk about microventures again. As I said, I'm not advertising for them. It worked out for me. It may not work out for you as well. And also, don't try to do this one time and think, oh, it didn't work, so it will not work. Or maybe it worked out so well, everything will work out. Because again, you got to go through each of these businesses and thoroughly perform due diligence, right? That's what I did for on any of these businesses. And even I had invested in every early stage fund. So like this, you can pretty much open it. You can see I have invested 5 grand. Usually the minimum is 5 grand to 10 grand, but you can see a lot more details about this particular fund. Now, what I want to show or explain what happened with my investments, earlier investments as well. So my earlier investments are right here, portfolio and documents. And you can see I had invested in a lot of businesses. Again, please don't try to copy my portfolio because I took some chances as well. My very first investment was Bonobos, and then actually Redfin, right? So as you can tell, May 15th and April 5, Bonobos was the first one. Um, it got acquired by Walmart in a couple of years after I invested. The I was hoping that either it would go public, but either way, after I got acquired, I didn't make any money. I invested 5 grand and I got 4,800 or something back, 4,900 maybe, but I didn't lose much, right? So, but at the same time, I believed in Redfin. And so after investing through crowdfunder.com and Sit Invest, I realized that I prefer mid to late stage companies where they are pretty much ready to rock the world. Of course, I may have less upside, but I also would have some downside protection. So Redfin was a good investment. It worked out pretty well. I invested 5 grand. It went public after a couple of years, and I think when they sent me all the stocks that I owned, they were worth 12 grand when I received the stocks. I actually went back to my brokerage account, sold 5 grand worth of stocks to get my initial investment back. That's also another important point I try to do if my investment doubles or so. Now that's is what I try to do. I wish I would have done that with Bitcoin in 2016 when I put 400 bucks and it became 800. I sold everything. I wish I would have just took the cream off of the top and took 400 out pretty much. And I had 10 coins, right? So, and if I would have kept that investment going, that would have been great. So that's another thing. Don't take out money early, right? Unless that's what your goal was. But yeah, that's what I did with Redfin. Took out 5 grand out of the 12 grand worth of stocks I received, and then after a couple of years, the 7 grand worth of stocks I sold them at, I think they were worth 9,000 or so, because I thought I want to get out of stock market. But so that investment worked out pretty well. I think my 5 grand became 15 grand. So I was happy with it. I still kept looking at other investments in Microventures, but at the same time, I got sidetracked with my real estate investment. But I was always waiting for certain investments to show up on Microventures, and it was one of those days where last year, in the same day, on the same week, I saw Airbnb and Robinhood. And those are some of the companies I was following. Robinhood investment worked out really well. It was very interesting. I put 5 grand on January 29, and then, of course, with the GME stock frenzy and a lot of other short selling stocks, etc., Robinhood started banning buying and selling of certain stocks, and that caused a lot of uproar. But what I learned is that a negative publicity is also good publicity, and that's exactly what happened with Robinhood. And I think they will go public. I may have sold too soon, but I heard back from Microventures that they would there are a lot of investors who want to invest in Robinhood, and there are no stocks available. I was like, wow, and this was crazy because they reached out to me in January, and I said, okay, exactly a year after I invested, and they were ready to pay me for my 5 grand worth of stake. They were ready to pay me 12 grand, 12,500, something like that, and I accepted that. I think if I would have kept it now, it's worth way more. But in a year, I'm doubled my money, more than I doubled my money too. So I was happy with that investment. Again, I think that company will, keep going up when, as an if and when if they go IPO. But that's how it worked out. And Airbnb, this is where I got very lucky. It's just, I don't think I'm a smart investor, but it just worked out. I invested, and then Airbnb decided to go public. So as of today, Airbnb stock was around 180. And I when I invested, I bought it at around 90 bucks a share. So if when I receive my stocks, my 5 grand would be worth 10 grand, and this is one of the stock I think I will keep for some time. I may apply the same strategy as Redfin and take my 5 grand out, but that's my goal right now. So I think Microventure is supposed to send me my stocks 6 months after Airbnb went public. So I'm looking forward to that. So again, this is about my investment and how it fared so far. Again, it may not work out for you the same way, but definitely look into some of these crowdfunding websites and make sure you invest in only the businesses you know and trust, perform thorough due diligence, because this could be huge both ways, right? You could lose everything, or you could have humongous gains as well. So happy investing. Let me know what you think of this episode by going to my YouTube page, or emailing me, or as well as comment in my on my Facebook page or LinkedIn page as well. So Let's go with the today's joke. I was talking to a professor and I told the professor, I can't believe it increased by 500%. Professor got very upset. I'm sick of hearing about Bitcoin. Nothing can increase by that much and still be a good investment. I just told him I was talking about the price of college tuition since 1980. Happy investing, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!